Today we're going to cover the Sumerians. We're going to talk about why the Sumerians were important, who were the Sumerians, a monument that Sumerians had called a ziggurat, and the role that the Sumerians played on the invention of writing. The first topic that we're going to talk about today is how the Sumerians got into the Mesopotamian region. They arrived around 5000 BCE or before Common Era at about the end of the Neolithic period in early humans unit. They settled in the Mesopotamian region, and immediately they felt like their best option was to take up farming. They began to build dams and canals to get the water from the two rivers. Let's review what the two rivers were: the Tigris and the Euphrates River. They also began to learn helpful ways of beginning to control the water a little bit better through the dams and through the canals. Now, Sumerians are most known for the way their cities looked. Each city was surrounded by walls. Now, the way the walls were they were upwards of about 50 to 100 feet high. Soldiers were stationed in towers and at the gate. They were sitting in garrisons at the top of the towers, basically with their bows and their arrows and their other weapons ready. And if an intruder came upon their city, they were ready for them. They were also sitting at the city gate. If somebody that they didn't know was coming at them, they had to check them in before they could ever enter the city. The city consisted of a wide boulevard that crossed the city. It was lined by the houses of the wealthy. The reason it was lined by the houses of the wealthy is because the wealthy wanted to be able to get in and out of the city easier, so they wanted to be on the front streets. The rest of the city after the boulevard was simply alleys, with flat-roofed houses for everybody else, people like business people, traders. The lower class people consisted of the flat-roofed houses in the alleys. Let's move on to the famous monument that the Sumerians had called the ziggurat. The ziggurat is the most dominant structure in each city. It is dedicated to the patron god. It is the largest structure in the city. It serves civic and religious purposes. Basically what happened is they had about 20 to 50 stairs depending on which city we're talking about. And they would go up the stairs each day or once a week, and they would basically have these daily sacrifices and these rituals because what the Sumerians believed was if they didn't have these sacrifices and these rituals, then the patron god that the ziggurat was dedicated to wouldn't grant them as good of luck as they had been getting. They believed that the patron god would basically wish upon them bad will because they weren't doing the sacrifices and the rituals. The ziggurat was not only a place for daily sacrifices and rituals, it was also a place for the storage of grain and other foods. So not only was the killing of animals and people happening at the ziggurat and other rituals, but the ziggurat was also the home of a food storage area as well for grain and other foods that the people would be eating and be trading with other groups. So it was kind of the good with the bad in this one monument. The final thing that we're going to wrap up the Sumerians with and why they are important is the invention of writing. The invention of writing can be centered around 1 year, about 3500 BCE or before Common Era. Remember what the way history is, it hasn't been written down, so it's all word of mouth and it's all research. It's kind of as close as we can get it for right now. The invention of writing for the Sumerians is pictures. Pictures represent certain objects that were done on clay. Cuneiform was invented over time. 2,000 symbols began in cuneiform. Eventually it was reduced to 500. So it started with pictures, then it got down to cuneiform with the lines and the diamonds. 2,000 symbols started cuneiform, later got down to 500. A pro, like a doctor today, would be called a scribe. A scribe is somebody who has 15 years of training. That is somebody similar to a whole career of schooling from K through community college. So 13 years in elementary, middle, and high school, and then 2 years community college, except for this is like they're getting their doctorate. So today we have talked about the first Sumerians, how they arrived, when they got there, when they got to the Mesopotamian region. We talked about the importance of the Sumerian cities. We talked about the most famous monument that the Sumerians had in the ziggurat and why it was important. And we talked about the Sumerians' role in the invention of writing. This ends the Sumerians topic for today.